Firstly, the promise. It's the promise of desolation to restoration. I mean, what we read in that second reading, it's a reading from the book of Ezekiel. Ezekiel was a prophet of God, lived about 600 years before Easter. And just to warn you as we go through this story, it's quite a dark story. It's a gloomy story. But just like any good story, it begins dark before the light breaks in. And so Ezekiel, what happened? Well, he was given a picture, a vision from God, from the perspective of God, how God sees the world. In fact, how God sees the very people of God, what they're like. And so if you were to paint a picture, we see God's picture here, but if you were to paint a picture of the world today, what would your painting look like? I suspect on one corner you'll have jet fighters, aircraft carriers. Another corner you might have missiles and drones. Another corner you've got Easter eggs and bunnies and chocolate. And another corner you've got petrol prices and inflation. And perhaps that's our picture of the world today. But what was the vision that Ezekiel was given? Well, it was a macabre vision of total desolation, a valley of dry bones. This is from God's perspective, how God sees things. And so we read verse 2, I saw a great many bones on the floor of the valley, bones that were very dry. And so what I want us to picture here is sort of like a metaphorical picture of absolute destruction. Historically, it was a picture of what the people of God were like. They were far from God and they were far from good. They were exiled from their land. They were homeless. They were living in Babylon, which is modern-day Iraq. And so it's really a picture of them losing their identity. They've lost their way in life. They've lost their meaning. They've lost any sense of hope. A valley of dry bones. And so imagine vultures picking at decaying flesh, and you hear the sound of crows calling. It's the picture where the grave wins again and again and again. Death is like this insatiable beast that keeps up swallowing the living. It's despair, desperation, and desolation. And if you think about that picture painted by God, how God sees things, what has changed? Because isn't it still the case that sometimes it feels like the world is just like a valley of dry bones?